I know the whole Bitcoin ecosystem. I was the first
Take
investor in
us through that
Coinbase.
meeting.
I
Take us through that meeting with
Okay,
Brian Armstrong at Red Rock Coffee.
Red Rock was, dude. Okay. I always want to give a plug to Red Rock Coffee, and the reason that I say Red Rock Coffee is because I hit a bunch of dingers, and by dingers I mean home runs from meetings where I met the founders at Red Rock in Mountain View, and so I think Red Rock Coffee. I should probably invest in Red Rock Coffee. Um, I went there actually just to visit Father's Day this year. The I met Brian Armstrong, and I should thank him because he inspired the biggest creative movement in my life. So I should also just say Brian Armstrong is the reason that I got into Bitcoin in the first place. I didn't know what Bitcoin was. I looked at a sheet of paper, and on that sheet it said Coinbase, digital currency marketplace. That was the description of it. And I was like, I don't know what a digital currency is, and I didn't know that there could be enough to have a marketplace of digital currencies. And I was curious. And so I emailed him. I actually sent him the cold email when he hit $1 billion valuation. I was like, look at the deck, look where you came from, like, look at how far you've come, and then like, look at this email. And he shared it on a blog. There's a blog post with it. And I was 26. I was trying to prove that I was an actual investor. Like I was like, it's basically me being like, hey, I invested in these two other companies. And I had failed for all intents and purposes. Expert Financial was a failed company. It ended up getting sold, but it wasn't a huge exit. And so from there, like I had some information to pass on to people. I mostly had advice that I thought might make them not make the same mistakes I did. And so I meet Brian Armstrong. I got a hot chocolate with whipped cream. I remember that. And I sit down with him. And he says he has the audacity to say two things that still resonate to me to this day, which is the world's going to be on one financial infrastructure. And so that concept of one financial infrastructure is still in the mission statement of Coinbase. Like a lot of people don't realize that he's been at this 12 years now, and he's kept the same essential mission statement. Like it's changed to one finance or one, I forget what their word for it is, but like it's the same concept. They came up with better marketing, but same concept. And in my head, I was thinking like, why isn't it? Like, why aren't we on one financial infrastructure, right? Like I can send a text to anyone on the planet for free. I can, and at that time that was true, but I can't send money to any of them. So like, why? And so I listened, and he started talking about this Bitcoin thing. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And he's like, oh, you don't know what Bitcoin is? And all of a sudden you can see him just get like really depressed because it's like he's pitched 90 other people and he's like, this is a no, right? And he said, the second thing that he said that I think I have still yet to hear another founder say is this could be $1 trillion opportunity. Everyone else said multi-billion, like that was a popular thing. But he said, this is $1 trillion opportunity. And I was like, I've never heard that. Like it rings in the ears when you've never heard something, right? And he was wrong. It's already a $2 trillion opportunity from there, and it's probably $100 trillion opportunity. And so like that's wild. Now I didn't say yes on the spot. I left. I did diligence. I called some of his customers, some of his investors. And the thing that I recognized about all of them was they were all obsessed with Bitcoin. They were like, they couldn't stop. They didn't care about, it wasn't about Coinbase whenever we were talking. It was about Bitcoin. Like that was the thing that everyone wanted to talk about. And at the end of it, and this is here, another place where people just turn off the thing. My decision, ready? My decision that I made. I was on the toilet, and I was talking. I wasn't talking. I was going to the bathroom. And I was reading an Economist magazine that I'd read countless times. and I'd read this Economist magazine. I mean, it had been next to the toilet. It's like that stack of books that's right next to the toilet, and it was just something that was going on. And I had read it so many times, and it was from about a year before this. And there was a Bitcoin article I'd never read, and I open it up, and I see this Bitcoin, and it says "Bitcoin bubble burst?" ? And I read the article, every single word, and it said the price of Bitcoin had gone from $30 to $2. Like this thing's not going to work, bummer, whatever. Like, it was an article that was pretty negative on Bitcoin, and I read it, and I was like, it was at 30, and then it was at 2, and the price is about $10 per Bitcoin right now. Like, someone wants this to exist. Like, there's someone who wants this to exist. I called Brian right after I went to the bathroom, and maybe while I was on it, I don't know. And on the toilet, and I said, I'm in. And that was it. And he goes, like, he's like, he actually said, for how much? And I hadn't decided. But I will also say that led to one of the not worst decisions, but opportunities that I could have. I would have been like, hey, I'm lucky to have been a part of a lot of great stories. I've backed amazing multi-billion-dollar companies, but Brian. So I end up investing, and he calls me. And by the way, all founders out there, like, when you receive the money from the investor, call them. Like, it was such a nice call. Like, that was such a nice thing. You don't get that many of these calls. And he called me and he said, "Hey, like, we're really excited to work with you," like, all this stuff. And little did I know, I was one of like 3 people to say yes, right? Like, I was there was no one else, but very few others. But and he goes, "Hey, some of the other investors want to buy an equivalent amount of Bitcoin in like the same amount of, like, you invested X, you get the same amount of Bitcoin." Bitcoin price was like fluctuating between $9 and $12. And in my head, first off, as a founder, you should always ask this question. Like, I need to increase volume. This is a way I can increase volume, right? Like, investor will pay. And I was thinking about it. I was like, Brian, like, I just invested a bunch of money. I'm not gonna buy the other thing too. Like, I invested in you, man. Like, I do people, like, but that would have been the best investment, like, of all time at that time, and I didn't do it. And I fully wish I had. Although, if I had done it, who knows if I would have held for as long, like, forever. But so that is my Brian Armstrong. And Brian, to this day, is an awesome person. I still believe in him. I still believe in him.
Take us through then, like, the subsequent years of that journey, I guess, where people might not have believed in Bitcoin or saw it. And you said, we're going to invest in 100 Bitcoin companies. Like, this was your thing. This was your mission. This was your focus at one point in time.
Youth and insanity are both assets, right? Like, I was 26 and I was obsessed with this stupid technology that, like, had consumed my life, my conversations, my, like, everything. And what we really realized was every single person that we talked, one thing was we started Boost VC. About 2 weeks later, I started this accelerator, this fund. And me and my partner, like, we realized after running one program where we invested in about 7 companies, we were like, hey, we need to set ourselves apart from the market and we have to focus. Like, that was the thought process. And we were like, we've been spending a lot of time on Bitcoin. Like, it keeps being a thing that we run into and we're sort of interested in. Like, let's get deeper there. And so we announced, there's still a blog post out there that's like our first announcement of, like, Bitcoin. And I went all in. We announced, we said, we think that it will be used for X, Y, and Z. For the record, we've been right on all of it. We're wrong on, like, time frame of good companies being built for the adoption of those things. And I think when the internet emerged, same thing. Like, everyone was right about what it was going to be good for, but they were sort of wrong on, like, overspending.
And the time that it would
like,
get done.
In the full time frame, like, it was 30 years, not 10. And so just to get through, so we ended up saying we're going to invest in 100 companies. Today we've invested in probably 170, 160 in Bitcoin or crypto related investments. We're the largest shareholder of like Etherscan and Unstoppable Domains and Repio, which is like Coinbase of Argentina. But with Brian, with Coinbase specifically, so up in a parallel timeline, all of a sudden I realized, hey, I'm obsessed with this, and Coinbase is one of the better brands in this space. The space is still, tiny, but like it's one of the like premium brands. And so I would say the thing about that story, the really interesting moments to me are, it's sort of where like there was a lull in 2014, 2015. And it wasn't that they were struggling, they weren't running out of money, but they didn't have an easy time fundraising. And they were trying to put enough in the chest for 3 years out. And so they had raised from Union Square and then Andreessen Horowitz. And then there's this like, basically like, still it wasn't, no one was sure. And the emotional struggle of 2014, 2015, like people who were, it was hard, because imagine being a new venture capitalist who's like trying to do the classic approach to venture where I'm investing in companies, but no other venture capitalists would invest in the companies I back. So like, because they're all crypto. And so they're like, oh, is that Bitcoin thing still a thing? And like, you hear that enough times, all of a sudden you're fatigued and you start to think like, well, maybe it's not a thing, right? Like it hasn't taken off. I don't know when it will. It's hard. And so I think that time frame, so DFJ Growth ended up investing, and I think it was like 75 million bucks on I forget what the valuation was, but like 400, something like that. So it valued the company at 400. It was early to value it at 400. That was a big risky bet for DFJ Growth to take. And I tip of the hat, because that at that time, that was not a popular bet. But the thing that is most surprising about that journey, other than Brian Armstrong being a consistently great leader, like I think he was, we had him come in and speak year 2. He said, I just raised from Union Square Ventures. And people, when I was fundraising, said, this will never work because the banks won't, it's going to be too hard. The banks won't let you do it. It's going to be too hard. No investors are going to back it. It's going to be too hard. The government won't let you do this. And he's like, yeah, I want to spend my life solving hard problems. And like that is what Brian Armstrong is. Like he is an endurance race on hard problems. And so like, I'd say like he's taken very courageous stances and unpopular stances at different times. 2019, he sort of stood up for like, hey, we're a mission-driven company and this is our mission. And like, if you don't like that mission, I'm sorry, but it's just, this isn't for you, because he realized so many conversations were sort of about the political state of things at that time. So he was just like, hey, like, we got to focus, everyone. And I think also people don't realize how hard it is to build a startup. Like, it is just difficult. And like, I commend anyone building a startup. Anyone who's starting anything, new ideas, it's just difficult. But I think the thing that people don't realize now, they look at the market cap, they look at Coinbase, it's 100 million accounts, it's a $20 to $30 billion company. Even before it went public, it was still not a popular bet. Like, it was still unpopular. Like, it wasn't, like, in the market, people wanted to sort of pretend that they wanted to invest in it, but very few people were willing to take that real bet on the market. And so I think that it really does. And Brian Armstrong's not novel in this story, right? Like, it's every founder has this exact same thing where no one cares until everyone cares. And everyone cared when it went public. Like, everyone all of a sudden was like, that's started the fire, like the smoke, the fire, the everything, and inspired, a lot of value to be created, and then sort of fall because it was a little over popular at the time. But yeah, I don't know. He's just great. I'm always going to do that. He's awesome.
I love hearing those early stories because it really gives color to the realness. When you look at Brian Armstrong and Coinbase today, it's easy to look at it like you're looking up at that mountain of what he's climbed. And I think these stories like bring it face to face of like, oh, there was struggle, there was difficulties. I think in a lot of ways, the 2010s were characterized by incredible founders of companies and entrepreneurs like, Mark Zuckerberg and Brian Armstrong. And I think like the 2020s version of that is creators.